Welcome. I'd like to welcome members of the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, representatives from our local schools, the museums, the libraries, Ivy Terrace, special guests, counselors, ladies and gentlemen. We are here today to present the historic documents to community groups in the District of Digby. The documents we are presenting today are the following bound copies of the elder transcripts, reproductions of the AF church map of Digby County and the digitalization of the Digby Courier microfilms. The objective is to make these documents more accessible to the public and in turn create a better understanding of our past. I now ask Robert Hershey to come forward to present the projects.
I don't know if I really need a mic. I think I'll maybe try this without one. But if you can't hear me, please say something. Today, again, we're here to present three projects that were initially identified back when we were conducting our heritage property inventory. And part of that inventory was to assess the potential heritage buildings that were in the district. In doing so, I personally toured with elders in each little community, roughly about 30, to tour, or road tour, outside the property driveways, pretty much. Asked them details about the home, what they knew about it. And over again, from each little community, I kept hearing that if so-and-so was still alive, they could tell you everything you wanted to know about this home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So from that, I did an assessment of how big a project the inventory would be of these properties, and did a report, and I submitted an observation that our oral history was being lost, and that there was an urgency to go out and actually record some of this. So that brought on a project called the Elder Transcripts. And this was a project that was to interview the oral history from various different elders in the community. And the project was designed as an internet CD approach, interactive CD, a delivery device type of thing. And publication of the Elder Transcripts was never really considered at that time. Funding was focused more on digital imaging and collecting things and putting it into computers and that sort of thing. So at the end of the project, Councillor Helen Robertson suggested that it should be printed and used in that medium, where the elders that were being interviewed would more likely read the printed version than be comfortable using the internet. We reported this in another report later, and it became a potential project down the road. However, I got busy in other projects, and it was about 4 years ago that we reassessed some of these old projects, and one of them was the publication of the Elder Transcripts. So I guess that being said, it gives you some background into that. We like to present the document to the organizations. So what I'll do is I will call out the name. Warden Counselor, Warden Gregory will present, and we have Greg Turner here that will take a photograph of each presentation. So we'll start with Aaron Kamal with the Western County Regional Libraries. There are 3 copies here. You can just take one with you now and pick the other 2 up. Yeah, okay. I do have a box.
Let's try it. Here we go.
One for each library in the district.
Can you see me? Okay. There. Is that good? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Admiral Digby Museum, a representative from that organization, please. Sister Landing. Smith. Bear River Historic Society. Smith Cove Historical Society. The Islands Historic Society. Tideview Kids.
Dawn, you were scared to be in it? Thank you so much. And you look so nice.
Our second item is a project that was done a couple of years ago and has already been submitted to or presented to the historic societies, and that is the AF Church map. However, there is one society that had not received a copy, and we're here to present that today. I'll do a little background on this project. It's on the wall over here. It is an 1871 map. It's a time capsule of our community, county of District DB as well as District Clare. It contains names and businesses of the people that lived here and the community they lived in, as well as exactly where their property was located on the streetscape. It was a tool, again, that was used a lot with our Heritage Property Inventory Project as a reference to proof that their property and the owner was associated with the map at that period of time. It would help us move on in the deed searching. So I guess we'll present this to the Smith Cove Historical Society. This map can be used as a retail item. If anyone's interested in purchasing it, you can currently get it at the Admiral Digby Museum. But it is up to the society to determine whether they wish to have it as a retail item. Our third presentation today is a project that has taken us several years to sort of complete, and it ended up being, of course, more complex than what I initially, I guess, intended or thought it would be. And that is the digitization of the microfilms of the Digby Courier. This project possibly is, it is the complete, but as complete as we can get of all the issues that do exist on microfilm. We discovered over painstakingly that the various different microfilms had been edited over the years
causing the certain reels to have missing years, where the museum here in Digby had microfilms, years were missing, yet they existed at the library. And the library had microfilms with years missing, but they existed at the museum. No explanation. It happened a long, long time ago. But this project did, through the process, recognize the discrepancies in these reels. So we were able to correct that. We also tried to scan these microfilms to the point where they could be word searchable. And but due to the quality of the initial filming of the microfilms back in 1976, there's 62, 80% almost of that of the images that have been captured over 100 years that have exposure problems, over or underexposed, or they are slightly out of focus, which caused image quality issues that did not allow it to be scanned to the point where it could be word searchable. So the document is in the chronological index, and that's sort of what we have here today. As a sideline, there is a surname index that has been put together by one of our guest speakers today, Luella Marshall, and she's been working at this for a number of years. How many years?
I figured it out the other day, over 15 years.
Over 15 years. Wow. Yeah, I can't really overstate, I guess, the importance of this document. The objective, again, is to put it into more eyes, more people can view this and get involved in it. It is our chronological evolution of our community. It is the good times, bad times, the wartime, peacetime, what we wore, what we bought, what we ate, even. The information that's in this is it's second to Isaiah Wilson's book. You know, this is a document that is a story here that you get the right people, researchers, getting into it. It can produce some real unique, original insights into who we are, our community, and how it evolved. So maybe at this point, I'll give a quick tour, okay?
Roughly, this is what it is. It's on a portable hard drive, and it lists from the first issue, which is 1874 to 1977. Between 1874 and 1877, there's very few issues. In fact, there's only 17 pages. And that's basically, it's evident in the document itself, so that people will know they're doing the research that there are missing years and there are missing pages. And there are quite a few over the 100-year span. But we'll peek in on the page here. It opens up to just basically a cover page. And in the cover page, it covers things like the credits, which is really ourselves and the other funders in this, which is the province of Nova Scotia. There is a timeline here, very much similar to the timeline that is associated with the Elder transcripts. We have a disclaimer. There are opinions expressed in the Courier that are not politically correct. Let's put it that way. We just want to make sure. We have links. These are links that you can go to. These are to do further research with genealogy in reference to the material that you're researching in the career. And there's contact information, which is contacted through the office here. This is the Andy Kempton murder. It was first, this is a special edition actually. It's a one-pager. And it basically covers the incident itself and the horrific crime that took place. And it says there at the end here, the worst that Digby County has ever seen, and there have been few more revolting crimes in all of Canada. And the opinion at the time in the trial did reflect that opinion. And it is something that has been, the story has been retold recently in Bear River. And there was a play several years ago. The gentleman that was accused, Mr. Wheeler, of doing the murder, there was some doubt into whether there was enough evidence to really hang the man. For a second. I'm using a Game Boy. I don't want to play video games. Anyways, 19. The good thing about this format is that you can refer to dates and material very quickly, where the microfilm, of course, is laborsome, and if it's not working properly, it can be difficult to see the material. But this sort of gives you a couple examples here. This is we did everything, even though it was under or overexposed. And everything was scanned to the best of the company could do. And this one here talks about the disaster received with the Titanic, and what the first issue that it was mentioned, which was 2 days after the 19th of April, which was the 15th was the disaster. So Digby was a part of a communication network through the ferry system, actually, from Halifax. They had a sort of a courier system. Of course, this would have been cable at the time, but part of that, it was a network of communications to get to the Eastern Seaboard newspapers from the news of Europe. And we would have definitely been, a part of that network. But this here is, again, a little hard to read, but you can read it on the microfilm. I went referred to it. I could not even read it on the microfilm. So this here, you can zoom in substantially. Sorry. To actually get into, actually read what was before I read unreadable. Dabble on that though. Let's go to one more. Just do one more. It's done in quarterlies, which is 3 months at a time. Here? Yeah. What was written in the Courier regarding the Japanese American War. That was over. The warriors you can literally start in 1940 and go issue to issue, and it's like time travel. You follow along the week weekly activities of a community that, was dealing with the war. And I did notice a considerable difference between the First World War careers and the Second World War careers. The First World War, they would write editorials. And sometimes they were direct letters, unedited, from the son of a mother who would post this letter. And the letters sometimes were horrific. And describing inhuman conditions as well as actions. And in the Second World War, it was far more, less graphic, let's put it that way, and possibly edited or, anyways. That's an observation that, yourselves or a researcher could do on their own. But again, it's something that you can start and run from the January of that decade and continue year to year. And it's actually it's a learning experience in itself. It's quite fascinating. It's just that the microfilms are in 2 locations. You have to book time to get in to view the stuff. Again, the objective here is to take this, correct it, and have it in the best possible exposure for reading. That was the focus. If you look at how this has been done in most cases, it's done very much like a photocopy. So the images and pictures are like a photocopy image. It's not grayscale. It's not, you can still see what the image is about, but it's not something you want to put on your wall. The importance is in what's been written. And that, unfortunately, due to the quality of the microfilms, was our decision to do that. So I have it set up down in the back room, and after we're done presenting this today, feel free to just go in the back and explore this on your own. That's this.
We have a couple of guest speakers just here to say a few words with regards to this project of the digitalization of the career. Our first speaker is Luella Marshall.
Okay, I tend to speak loudly, so if I'm too loud, please put up your hand and tell me, because I'm not used to speaking into a mic. Good afternoon. Thank you, Robert, for asking me to say a few words on the Digby Career Project. I think that you said it all very, very well, and I'm not, but however, now you are going to have to listen to me say it from my perspective. Digby Careers have long been an interest of mine. Many of you are likely aware that I spent many, many hours over a period of over 15 years at the Digby Library and at the museum using the microfilm to index the early issues of the Digby Courier. I added anything I felt would be of interest to researchers, but primarily for births, marriages, and deaths. All the years from 1877 to 1929 have been completed and are available for sale through the Digby, or I should say the Western County libraries. When Robert first approached me about taking the microfilms and digitizing them, my thoughts were, why fix something that's not broken? I like the microfilm. It works well for me. However, when Robert asked me to help proofread the results, boy, did I change my mind quickly. I now see that Robert was right and not me. I am often asked to do lookups for particular items. With the microfilm, I had to change films often, so I got a lot of exercise jumping up and down, and sometimes used 10 or more films on an afternoon at the Digby Library. With only one copy of each film, it was sometimes I had to wait for a microfilm to return from loan when it was given out to another library. And sometimes, I believe, if I remember correctly, the loan period was for 3 weeks. So I often had people very angry when they couldn't get their lookup as quickly as they wanted it. Now, I can sit at my computer, plug in the flash drive, and all the couriers that are available to me at my fingertips within seconds. Every time I plug it in, I am still amazed and silently thank Robert and the Heritage Committee for seeing the need to proceed with this project. As you are aware, the microfilms contain some very old, faded, and torn papers. Not always, but in many cases, changing them from the microfilm to the digitized images has helped to make them a lot easier to read. With copies being placed in the schools, teachers and students will now have the history of Digby and the Digby area at their fingertips. Students will be able to use them for projects with ease. An example springs to mind that a few years ago, a friend complained to me that her granddaughter had a project of finding information on the year her granddaughter was born, and she didn't know where to proceed. I said, no problem. I went to the couriers for that year and printed out a number of things, including the movies that were playing the week she was born, an ad from the grocery store to show the prices, another from Rights to show the fashions, and several articles of events over that year. She got an A, and my friend was happy. I once was asked by estate lawyers in the U.S. to find copies of obituaries of heirs to an estate to prove that they were deceased. How much easier and how much quicker I could have done both of these projects if I had been able to use the new flash drive in my home on the computer instead of trying to fit in time at the library and the museum. Unless you are a family researcher, it is sometimes hard to understand how excited a person becomes when they find the wedding write-up or the obituary of an ancestor. When I started researching about 40 years ago, most people collected the bare facts of births, deaths, and marriages, and they only followed the male line. Now, things have changed. Everyone wants to know their ancestors. They want to know where they lived, the times they lived in, the house, the church, the community. The Digby Courier provides this information. In the early days, the community had a weekly column with village news. Everything was news. And it was surprising what you could learn. For example, how many of you know that at one time there was a vote taken in Smith's Cove to change the name to Naples and to change Joggins to New Naples? Check out the 25th January 1907 issue of the Digby Courier. It really did happen. And am I happy? Apparently the residents didn't follow through. With this project, it will mean that several copies can be available at the library and museum, so several can be seated at a computer and within minutes be given access. But most important to me is that all the smaller libraries and museums that never could afford microfilm readers can now have copies of the Digby Couriers for their visitors and themselves to use. I get calls from people I have helped in the past that are coming home to see the places their ancestors worked and lived. Personally, I hear from at least 3 to 10 researchers a year who come home with families in tow. They want to see the community where their ancestors lived, see the church, school, etc., and finally, to gaze at the place that their ancestors lay in peace, often with tears in their eyes. I had a young teenager look at me in the Paradise Cemetery and say, "I am from Texas. I thought I was the only spirit in the world. Are these really all my relatives?" And I said, "Yes, dear, but some of them have been dead 200 years. And she just looked around and she said, "I can't believe I have so much family." And I thought, that will stay with her to the day she dies. You know what? And it was from things I had sent from not only the Courier, but the other newspapers of the area. Each family that visits us does give needed tourist dollars to the area. And this, in our small area, is very, very important. 10 families with 4 or 5 people in it come a year and spend a week. That's added money to our area. To have an older gentleman say to his sons and grandchildren, "This is really where my grandfather lived. I never thought I would see it." And to hear the sons and grandsons say, "Wow," he says it all. When you know that it all started from a little article you sent him from the Deeply Courier that proved his grandparents lived in this area. Though I was only asked to speak on the Courier, I have to add that I feel the other 2 projects are very important. And as a result of all 3 projects here today, I am sure we will be seeing and hearing many, many more wows as researchers arrive at our libraries and museums to find these exciting projects awaiting them. Thank you, Robert, and the Heritage Committee for all your fine and dedicated work.
Thank you very much. Well, I think an applause should go to you as well, definitely, for your tireless work with the Survey Index. 15 years, the amount of hours you put into that, we have another. Oh.
I had one of your pages.
No, that's probably good. No, that's right. We have another guest. She's come all the way from PEI, Charlottetown. Her name is Juliana McEwen. She's sitting right here. She was the document management specialist with the Digital Courier Project. She works with the Precision Document Management Company that we used in PEI. And she was a big help getting through this. It seemed to be one stumbling block after another. And I don't know if I'm going to refer to that or not. It's a lot of detail to it. But please welcome Julia.
Thank you very much, Robert. I certainly appreciate the invitation to be here on this special day for all of you. And certainly was very excited to take on this project. And listening to Luella, I think I might need to offer her a job in advertising because she can convince anybody how important digitizing microfilm can be. Because she's certainly hearing the benefits from her perspective is really the joy that we get out of doing projects like this. So as Robert said, we took the microfilm and we created the digital images from the film, certainly not without its challenges. As he mentioned, some of the film was, some of the images were out of focus, some of it was washed out in spots, and parts of the images were missing from the film. There were shadows, gaps of years missing, and so on. But to make you feel a little better, we do a lot of this work, and it seemed that a lot of people had the same issues back in the 70s. I don't know what was going on with the people doing the microfilming back then, but it seemed that there were, we do get those issues that pop up with certainly other projects as well. So we took the images, and I'm not going to bore you with all the technical details of what we did to get to this point, but essentially we scanned each of the rows, we determined whether or not the images were readable. We worked with Robert, showing him the results that we got. We tried to enhance the images as best we can. That is one of the advantages when you digitize anything from paper or microfilm, in that sometimes you can enhance it so that it makes the image more readable on the digital image than on even the paper or the microfilm. So if we determined something was unreadable, then we would move on. And the images that were readable, we turned them into to multi-page PDFs. And as mentioned, we tried to use optical character recognition to make the text searchable. However, just due to the quality of the film, we had fairly low results with that. But certainly, we did our best to get what we could. We then just took the images, and you would have seen when he would pull them up, the little bookmarks along the side of the page that separated things into each of the sections, and then each of the years, and so on. And we created bookmarks so that if you clicked on that specific year, instead of seeing that sea of images that Robert had up on the screen there, you could quickly click on a year, and it would bring you right into that volume or that newspaper. So we certainly enjoyed working on the project, and through time we got something that I think gives you a great representation of the history of your newspaper, and everybody here today has already said how valuable that is, and we certainly appreciated being part of it, and looking forward to any other exciting and new projects that may come up in the future. And again, thanks for allowing me to come and share this day with you today.
Thank you, Julianne.
I guess we're going to get anything. Okay. We're ready to present the Courier. When I call it the ninth community group's name, please, if a representative can come forward, that'd be great. We'll start with the Admiral Digby Museum.
This is for another relative.
Sister Landing. The Bear River Historic Society. Swiss Cove Historic Society.
Excuse me.
Digby Neck, or the Islands Historic Society.
Thank you.
Tideview Terrace.
Thank you very much.
Western County Regional Libraries.
Oh, you can do one. It's easier than bucket. Thank you.
Now we have the schools as well, St. Mary's Bay Academy.
Thank you.
The Island School. Freeport School. Nope. Yes. Yeah.
There's no one here. Yeah, she's not there.
Yeah.
This is what we needed it.
Digby Regional High School. I don't see anybody from
She looks like she goes to school.
here. Yeah.
Thanks, Linda. Wanna make her feel good? She just had a birthday.
And
Love you too, dear.
the Digby Courier.
You could have been from home, but. Put Brenda next.
Luella Murray.
You get a red book.
Oh, I guess, yes, but you wanted to walk my back.
No. it doesn't.
See, there's one left. Shouldn't be one left. Three. And the Islands got theirs. St. Mary's Bay Academy was here.
One for us?
No, you already have one.
Oh.
I think that's, however, that's everyone I have on my list here, so I can't count very well, I guess. Well, that ends our presentation.
I've always tried to break up the equipment here. I would like to thank everyone for attending. I would like to especially thank Juliana and Luella for their work on this project. A lot of hard work went into it. I would also like to thank Rob and the Heritage Committee. Rob has done a lot of work, and we're really proud that he is on our staff, and we're pleased that the volunteers that worked on this was so wonderful as well. I would ask you to please stay and have some refreshments and fellowship, and also to play on the computer back there. Thank you.
I just remembered what that one was used for. It's for the Nova Scotia Public Archives, and
They're not here.
they told me they couldn't be here, but anyways.